Right guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is something I bet you've never thought about. Have you ever had a thought of the lie angle of your driver affecting your shot shape? I bet you haven't, but it does play a big difference. If you are someone who is fading, slicing, one of the most common amateur faults out there, is it because your hands are too high at impact, meaning the toe of the golf club is lower than the heel? It could well be. I have for you a great drill, and I'm also going to use a HackMotion sensor to talk about something that sounds a little technical, but it's actually going to be very simple to do with our wrist angle at setup and at impact. So what I'm really talking about here, guys, is the angle of the club shaft at setup and at impact. We'd like to start and return in a similar position. What do I see as a very common fault? Players getting the handle very high. Look what happens to my back. What happens to the golf club is the toe of the golf club returns lower than it should. That's the lie angle change that we're talking about. Now, when the toe is lower than the heel, it means that club, for me as a right-hander, is pointing more to the right, more open. That's not a good thing, especially for those faders, slicers out there. So a quick thing we can do at setup is make sure we start in such a position that we can try and return to that same position. I like golfers to be in such a position that their arms are hanging. Now with a driver, I don't mind the arms a little bit out, but I get a lot of golfers here. Now when I start with my hands up high here, it really locks my forearm, locks my wrist, it creates a lot of tension, and that's very hard to return into that position. So start in a more relaxed position, let those arms hang a little bit, create some angle in the back of the lead wrist, and it's going to be easier to try and return to that position. I do have for you in a minute a little hack that you can do, and you probably haven't thought about with your driver. They are loft adjustable, but actually most of them have a lie angle adjustment on there as well. But let's first of all try and start in one position and return in that same position. Now, why do many golfers return with their hands high? Well, it might be their start position. From a swing perspective, it can be if they're going dramatically out and then they're having to cut across the ball and get the hands high, or it might be that they're losing posture. But I have for you in a second a drill that's going to focus more on returning with the low hands. Now, those eagle-eye viewers out there might well have noticed I'm wearing a HackMotion device on my wrist. Why am I doing that? Well, most of the time, coaches are using it to measure this flexion and extension of the wrist, okay? Cupping, you could think of it, and flexing of that wrist. I'm actually going to be talking about the blue number here, which is to do with this one, ulnar and radial deviation. Cocking your wrist up, down cocking your wrist. Because if we start with our hands in the same position and we return in the same position, we're going to see a similar number at address and at impact with that ulnar radial deviation. Okay, so that's where I'm going to be using it. And this is a very cool device where I can set myself a range and get an audible tone of whether I'm doing it or not. So great feedback. Now I do have for you just a little offer. HackMotion have given me this and allowed me to give you guys a discount if you use the code TGA, standing for TruGolf Academy. Okay, TGA, you will get 20% off right now in their Black Friday deal. So use that coupon code. I will put the code just here and I will put a link below, but it's well worth doing. They do 3 devices in different price ranges depending on what info you're trying to get from your HackMotion device. I'm going to go ahead and hit one. And what I'm going to try and show you is my start position and my impact position. Well, I'll take the ball flight, a little cut, but a fairway found. Right. So I got there at address. My wrist was 20 degrees in ulnar deviation. At impact, it was 12. So minus 20, minus 12. So pretty similar numbers at address to at impact. If I got my hands very high through impact here, I'm getting more into numbers like minus 33. Okay, so the higher my hands, the bigger that ulnar deviation is going to be, effectively down cocking my wrist. So if you are getting high hands, you're going to start to see very, very big numbers there. So I very cleverly here set myself a little range of -10 to -24. And if I move outside of that range, I don't get a tone. If I get within that range, can you hear that? So I can actually make some swings. Now actually trying to get that tone. So that's -22, -24. What I don't want to do is get my hands right up here somewhere into -38. So I'm having to return with my hands in a similar position to the start. So it's great to get some feedback and know that I'm returning to a similar position that I'm starting at. Very, very clever bit of kit. Great to work on your wrist angles, not just this way, but I'm actually using it this way. So this may look a little scary. What have I set up here? Just an alignment stick in the ground at 45 degrees, past the golf ball so there is room to swing. But you can see from the downline camera here, if I get my handle too high, what's going to happen? I'm going to strike this tour stick, this alignment stick that's out in front of me. I'm trying not to keep the tone going, so I'm trying to keep my wrist pointing down. Now I could put something soft like some foam over the top of this just so I'm not worried about it so much. But my aim when I'm at least doing some practice swings would be, and we should get the tone here, can I return in such a position that I'm underneath this and I've still got those singing angels with my HackMotion? Let's give it a go. High hands, you can see I'm going to strike it. Now, I've got to be honest, that was not my best contact, but blooming hell, it was straight. Really enjoyed that one down the middle. That's 3 out of 3 fairways found here on a very tough driving hole. So I'm just really working on accuracy. And in terms of numbers, look how similar this is. This is a nice one to look for. So I got, let's stop it singing for a second. So I got there, let's look at this, pretty well the same number at address and at impact. So ulnar deviation, -19 at address. At the top of the golf swing, I've gone into radial deviation as my wrist has done more this. At impact, back to -15. It started at -19, got to -15 at impact. So I managed to stay very much along the same lines. I'm returning with a similar handle position at impact to address. So I mentioned there also a little hack that we can do with our driver. Most golfers have got a loft adjustable driver, very, very common. Now you can up loft, you can de-loft the golf club, and that just changed the face angle. But most drivers have also got an upright setting. So I have here upright lie angle. I'm going to walk into this camera. Hopefully you can see it. Upright lie angle. If you set it to the upright lie angle, it is going to mean the toe of the golf club sits a little bit more up in the air, only by about 1.5 degrees. But if you are a fader or a slicer, give it a go. It could really help you return with that club more this way rather than that way. So we don't want the toe of the golf club low. Now, why does that happen? High hands. Why do we get high hands? As I said, we might start there. That's a simple thing to change. Or it might be because you are losing posture. So if your hips are moving towards the golf ball. But you know what? With this exercise, I was simply doing, if I return with my hands low, I've got to keep my arse out. I've got to push my backside back. You could work on your backside and I'd put a chair behind you, and rather than show you that again, I'm going to put some links here talking about early extension because that is very relevant to it. And I'm going to put another link here as well where we're talking more about the swing path. If you are coming more over the top, you are likely to get very high hands through impact. But this drill will stop that because if I come over, I'm going to hit it. So I've got to get under this line, return with my hands in a similar position. That means I've got to keep my bum back, and that means I cannot go over the top. So just simply do alignment stick exercise. Think about your setup position and how that affects your impact position, and do some mirror work where you're just starting and seeing, can I start and return to a similar position? It's really going to help you play some better golf. As I said, I have put a link just below with that amazing discount that you can get with HackMotion. It is well worth it, so check it out.